Murray, good evening. How you doing?
Very well, thank you.
All right, so here's the big thing that I wanted to kind of capture before we start looking at the videos. I know from previous uh, videos that we did talking about the history, you and I discussed, and you were telling me about how much you walked that property and how well you knew it. And I think one of the fascinating things for me is I wanted to ask you and to let everybody know, Murray and I have been working on this project for well over a year, and we've been trying to get together in Orangeville to actually walk the Bruce Trail across the ski resort. So we made that happen. So Murray, the question I have for you is, knowing that we are going to be able to get together, I was kind of wondering what you were anticipating and what you were envisioning of what the terrain looked like. And then once we got there and we started walking the trail, kind of the difference between in your mind, the anticipation of what you thought things were going to look like, and then what we really experienced. I was just curious if something really stood out to you, or kind of that expectation of what you were thinking before, and then once we started.
Not something, but 1,000 things came up for me.
Okay.
I had in my head let go of ever being there again at least 40 years ago. I think I had driven by once, down the road once in that 40 years, and looked at the trees and thought, that's nice. And as I say, I had let go of it then. However, when it came up that maybe I was going to go back, I started to think, well, oh, wow, what's this going to be like? I didn't spend a lot of time trying to imagine what it would be. I thought I knew everything about what it was and what it would be with all these trees growing. I had no idea how amazing that transformation was, or even where I planted trees, because when I was planting them, I was just planting them where it seemed the appropriate place to put them. When we walked across it, I don't like the term, but I was blown away. I was really, really amazed, and I was disoriented, I would say fairly seriously, and it isn't just my age. It's just that it's so different. You know, I had imagined over the years, maybe it would be a forest now, and I really couldn't imagine. So we were walking through these thousands and thousands of trees that me and my buddies planted 60 years before. And I just marveled at them, as well as the ones we planted, as well as the ones that were in the forest all along, and the new ones that had popped up, some of which were very large, where there had been a ski trail before. And if you want me to go on, I'll tell you the story of walking across Murray's Run.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we approached Murray's Run, and the landscape seemed, oh yeah, I know where we are, and you know, that was this and that, but it was a bit confusing. I really did feel somewhat confused. Again, it's 40 years since I set foot on that place, at least 45 in certain spots. So we were walking, and I'm looking and marveling and saying, isn't that interesting? And we came to this place where there was a piece of steel sticking out of the ground. And I said, that's not supposed to be there. That confuses me. It's somewhere else. We passed it already. And it took a little while for me to figure out that I had walked right across Murray's Run, my trail, not knowing that I had walked across Murray's Run. This piece of steel was on the far side of Murray's Run, in a place I knew exactly where I had seen it come to rest many years before, like 60 years before, that piece of steel. And we'll go into that one later, but it was amazing, really, all the way around. We didn't even walk all the way across the property, but I was stunned. You know, I should have known that, you know, I'd seen the trees when they're, some of them maybe 15 years old or something like that, you know, from a couple of different angles, namely from the top of the hill. But again, I maybe it's because I just said, Murray, this place is not for you to mess around with, just forget it. And let happen what's going to happen to it. Now, all of a sudden, something happened. I was amazed.
When you found the ski runner, was that kind of like, did that kind of reorient everything for you? Like, was that kind of like aha? And then as you started looking around?
Not immediately. This was, you used the term ski runner. It's part of a sled that we'll talk more about later. That whatever, it is a story in itself, but we walked on from there, me thinking it's in the wrong place. What's going on? What, and it took another 100 yards or so. I can't remember exactly when it dawned on me that that's the toboggan of toboggan toe fame, which is again another story, but a really, really interesting one. And we went back, and you shot me saying, well, this may well be the toboggan, and I'm absolutely certain it is the remains of this thing called the toboggan.
Yeah, I just, I was just amazed. I've told you the only other times I've been up there has been in the fall when all the leaves were on the trees. Now, it's obviously a very beautiful time of year to be there.
Yeah.
But when you're walking across the trail, it is so hard to pick up the clues that you taught me with all the leaves on the trees. Now, when we were there, fortunately, we were there, just last month in May when the leaves were not on the trees. And I was just amazed as, you took your time and, you kind of found a reference point and you start looking around. It's like the clues kind of come out of the forest. It was, some of the things you were telling me about the bigger diameter trees, on the edges of the trails, and then the smaller diameter, trees. And then obviously you'll pick up one thing and then you can start to see something else. So for me, it was very fascinating that it was like a picture that just kept expanding, right? And more detail, as we kind of walked back and forth. And then it's like, once you had one reference point of Murray's Run, and then it's like, okay, then it was kind of like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. So I found that really very fascinating.
I find the phrase seeing the forest for the trees an interesting thought exercise often, and you can put a lot of interpretations on it, but that one is applicable.
Yeah.